Now, here's another thing that I talked about previously that I think becomes interesting in general, especially as we start to talk about Russia in particular, and really anything BRICS related, is the importance of Bitcoin as an asset from the perspective of an easy way to move an asset that is not deflationary, right? So regardless of like how you, what you may consider an advantageous asset or a more advantageous asset, let's say like real estate or something along those lines, there is the fact that Bitcoin is a movable asset, right? And this means that an easily movable asset, right? It means that you can move freely beyond borders without being penalized by the state that you're moving out of or fleeing from in any case, and still maintain whatever your wealth was, right? So it means that, you know, as opposed to trying to leave on a boat, you know, in the middle of a night, in the middle of the night, escaping Russia or China or North Korea, which obviously like there's other issues there, but just presumably, right, it would be easier to escape, let's just say, a corrupt government in general, right? Let's not name any specific countries. Let's just say, like, in general, trying to escape a corrupt government, what would be the easiest way to get your wealth out? It would probably be Bitcoin, right? You could memorize your seed phrase, you could dump all of it into there, and then as long as you get out, you know, you can move it. Can you do that with gold? Not really. Can you do that with real estate? Absolutely not, right? There are things that get tied to the state that you live within, right, that are going to prevent you from moving your wealth and your well-being ultimately, except for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin offers this unique kind of opportunity for people to have something that is an asset that also moves with them, right? And this is kind of the idea behind it. Now, the Russian Ministry of Energy calls for urgent legalization of crypto mining. This one's going to be a little bit interesting because we know that here's the deal. We know that this is not necessarily straight up because we're doing the best thing that we can for our people, right? What this is essentially doing is it's Russia realizing the implications that sanctions have and finding a way around them, right? We talked about their tax holiday, some things like that, right? And the reason they're doing that is so that they enable, I think, in my humble opinion, right? They enable their oligarchs to participate within cryptocurrency without being penalized. Now, when we get to mining, this gets really interesting because they've already been proxy mining in Kazakhstan. And what they did there was help Kazakhstan invest in their power infrastructure, right? Their grid and everything. And in return, they get a portion of the cryptocurrency that is being mined in Kazakhstan. Now, Kazakhstan has a very strict mining licensing ruling or law there, essentially, where you have to have a certain license to be able to do it. It probably has a lot to do with the way the money flows in and out of Kazakhstan. And these are things to take a look at, right? The legal vacuum, though, in crypto mining sector must be filled as soon as possible, according to a statement by Russian Deputy Minister of Energy. I don't know how to spell his name or pronounce his name. Here's the deal, though, that I want you to pay attention to. A legal vacuum basically means that there's no ruling surrounding it. There's no law. There's no precedent. It's basically an industry that is the Wild West. And while you may hear on the surface things like urgent legalization of crypto mining, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good thing, right? What it means is, hey, let's go ahead and get it on the books. Let's legalize it. Let's pull it out of this legal vacuum so that we can regulate it and monetize it for government gain, right? So while on the surface this may sound good, and these are the debates that I've had, you know, with various other cryptocurrency influencers when they are very pro-regulation. I tend to be a little bit less pro-regulation. I think when I look at things from a legislative standpoint, the most recent legislation that's been proposed in Texas, for example, is what I would lean towards, which is protect the individual's rights to own the cryptocurrency, but don't go any further than that, right? That's kind of like where I'm at as far as this is concerned. But you want to just make sure that you understand that on the surface level, this sounds good, but it's not really actually necessarily positive. We would have to see what they want to do with it, right? Cryptocurrency mining needs to be regulated soon, he insisted during Russia's first national conference of legal Bitcoin miners held recently in Irkutsk, the Siberian Oblast, where electricity rates start at just 0.01, it's 1 penny per kilowatt hour, which is awesome, and has been dubbed the mining capital of Russia, as coin minting in the region spiked after China cracked down on the industry last May. Now, this is kind of where things get interesting, right? Because if you look at, this isn't necessarily a communism versus capitalism discussion, because if you look at the way Russia's handling Bitcoin versus China, right? This is going CBDC, or I should say blockchain. And then you look at EU adopting, basically copying what the digital yuan's doing, which we definitely have to talk about too later if you guys want to check it out on Locals. But you essentially have that moving over. You basically have kind of the US kind of set up as like the Russia version, the EU set up as the China version, and then you kind of have like Russia and China doing their things. Each one's going to be approached differently, I think, dependent on the power of the actual nation state on a global scale. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is a country will be more likely to adopt Bitcoin and a decentralized cryptocurrency the worse off they are in the economic in their economic standing in comparison to any other country, right? So if you have a poorer country, I think you will see them begin to adopt cryptocurrency. And if you have a richer, more powerful country, I think you will start to see them adopt essentially a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. Reason for this is more powerful countries, in my humble opinion, tend to want to hold on to that power, right? While the countries that do not have as much economic power are trying to find a way to bring their economic power or status further up. And there are a ton of incentives surrounding decentralized, obviously decentralized cryptocurrency, decentralized currencies in general. They give them an advantage. This is why you see El Salvador adopting it so hard. This is why you see citizens within Argentina adopting stablecoins. This is why you see citizens in Venezuela adopting, Digibyte. And it will be a class, it will be to a certain extent a class-based adoption, meaning that you will, I believe, by and large, you will have the lower classes adopting cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and you will have the upper classes adopting things like central bank digital currencies. And I do think that there will be a lot of, obviously there will be a lot of contention surrounding this. There's going to be a lot of discussion surrounding it. There's going to be a lot of legislation surrounding it. Either way, we do get to live through a very interesting time. So there is that. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. BT Miners has been a longtime sponsor of the channel and a proven reliable source for ASIC miners. If you're looking to purchase ASIC hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners is a trusted source by both ASICminervalue.com and CryptoMiner.com. Follow the affiliate link in the description and tell them SOT sent you to support the channel. He goes on to say that, quote, the legal vacuum makes it difficult to regulate this field and establish transparent rules of the game. It needs to be eliminated as soon as possible. We have no other options in the current reality. The legal regulation fitting the concept of mining into the regulatory framework must be implemented. Why would that be? Well, the only way to monetize the mining for a government is to regulate it, right? If you are unregulated, you can't really profit off of it fully, except for the case where, you know, you may have a situation like the drug war in the United States where the money gets pumped into it through a different realm, right? Like the money gets pumped into, you know, policing, right? And there could be the, you know, certain nation states or whatever nations that decide to take that route. US potentially being one, of course, China already kind of being one, where you can kind of generate income in that manner. But I think by and large, for you to be able to, you know, and really making it illegal, still kind of regulation, no matter what, you have to create rules as a government around an industry to be able to profit off said industry, right? Just goes without saying. So being a, you know, in a legal vacuum, it's not as profitable for a government like Russia, right? Russia's Deputy Minister of Energy further suggested that it would be more expedient to determine sites for mining facilities and the available energy capacities at the regional instead of federal level. I did read this earlier and immediately I thought this was really interesting because in the past, you wouldn't really see a push from Russia to regulate things on a regional level. At least most of the time, that's not how it's handled. And this push to actually regulate things at a regional level is really interesting because that screams like states' rights issues. I think we will see, you know, especially with the way Texas is pushing its legislation suggestions surrounding cryptocurrency, being actually quite opposed to the federal version of the legislation surrounding cryptocurrency, will put it in that realm of states' rights here. But from the fact of it not being able to be easily regulated by a federal government, even to the point to where Russia doesn't even think they're going to be able to regulate it at the federal level, means that to a certain extent, the original intent of cryptocurrency, which means to be more decentralized, is kind of being implemented by default, which I thought was a really cool concept. These quotas must be in compliance with the development plans of Russian regions, other industries, and the energy system, he added. Authorities in Irkutsk, I'll get it right, I'm probably saying it wrong all the time, and elsewhere have previously stated their readiness to provide sites for the industrial extraction of cryptocurrencies. If the business is recognized as an entrepreneurial activity, as a growing number of officials have been suggesting, calls in that direction have been issued by the chairman of the Parliamentary Financial Market Committee, Anatoly Aksakov, Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, and Governor of Irkutsk Oblast Igor Kobzev. There you go. Issued by them. Amid mounting Western sanctions over the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has seen an opportunity to use cryptocurrencies to regain access to global finances. While Moscow is considering accepting Bitcoin for its energy exports, despite the strong opposition of the Bank of Russia to legalizing a range of crypto activities, including mining, government efforts to regulate the country's crypto space have resumed. Most institutions have sided with the finance ministry's approach, which favors regulation under strict oversight over a blanket ban. In February, the department submitted a new bill on digital currency. In January, President Vladimir Putin urged the government and the central bank to resolve their differences and highlighted Russia's competitive advantages as a mining destination, which is extremely, in my humble opinion, telling as to what's actually going on with cryptocurrency in general, right? Because what you have is an adoption of, because this is weird, you have an adoption of cryptocurrency, I think ubiquitously, regardless of where people are coming from a political spectrum, just like a regional perspective, anything. You have what is happening is states that you would not expect to adopt cryptocurrency are adopting it, right? Which makes it very powerful. And if you have Russia, essentially, which would traditionally be communist, has obviously pushed against, obviously not right now, but, you know, has pushed against like basically the idea of individual freedoms, rights, or whatever it may be. Because of the situation or the circumstances they're in, they look for an alternative, and that alternative that ends up giving them some sort of, I guess, economic advantage is that of Bitcoin, right? Which is extremely interesting, to say the least. And we're seeing that kind of, like I said, applied across the board. It does appear that any nation state, any country that is at an economic disadvantage is moving towards basically adopting Bitcoin at this point. So I don't know, just kind of my 2 cents on it. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.